Hello and welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we have an exciting and interesting project to work on together, designing a data warehouse from scratch. We are going to start this project by understanding what a data warehouse is, why do we need it, what are some of the terminologies that are being used in a data warehouse, and some of the things that are going to be applicable when you are designing a data warehouse. These are some of the things that we're going to be discussing in this video. Once we finish that discussion, we are going to go over to the logical architecture of the system we're building today. We are going to design everything logically. Once we have the logical architecture ready and set up end to end, we are going to go over and create a Reddit data warehouse, Redshift data warehouse, which is going to be on AWS. After the creation, we're going to connect to it from our local system and start the ingestion of our data. The data generation is going to be done automatically with AWS Glue, which can also be automated with something like AWS Lambda and the rest like that. Or you can also schedule it to be done maybe daily or so, or at some frequency that you set on the system. Eventually, the data is going to be connected to our AWS catalog where we have our Redshift data warehouse connecting to our data catalog on AWS Glue. Now that will form our bronze because we are pulling in the raw data directly from AWS catalog. All right. Now once the data is pulled in as bronze, we have a DBT, the data build tool, that is going to be transforming this data using the silver and gold layers as well. Now eventually transforming everything into the Medallion architecture where we have the bronze layer as a raw and untouched layer. We have the silver layer where we do some transformation, and the gold layer where the data is ready for consummation. Now, end to end of this system is going to be discussed in this video. Why don't you grab a cup of coffee and let's get started. Okay, so let's talk about the prerequisites to this course. Now, the very first thing you need to do is have an AWS account because we are going to be needing to create a Redshift account. So if you don't have one, you can sign up at the website, on AWS website. You have a free tier, and you can also possibly leverage the free trial on Redshift. So you can use that for the free trial capabilities as well. Now, the second thing is understanding of AWS services. So basic knowledge of AWS services is required, especially AWS S3, IAM, and VPC. These three will be very beneficial for you because there are some at the point you have to enable firewall and enable access to some Redshift capabilities and stuff like that. That will be done on AWS services. So knowledge of S3 bucket, knowledge of S3 for data storage, the IAM for access and security management, and VPC for network configuration will be beneficial. Meanwhile, if you have zero idea, you can still follow along and try to understand. The process is not too complicated, and I try to, as much as possible, break it down for new people that are joining and try to understand the system. The number three thing that you need to know or to understand is data strategy and planning, which is usually subdivided into a couple of things like data sources, data volumes and growth, and schema design. Now, for the data sources, you are going to understand how to identify the data sources that you are going to be analyzing with Redshift. Now, this could be transactional databases, flat files, streaming data, etc. As much as possible, try to understand where the data sources are coming from and what kind of data are they going to be. The next thing you want to understand under data strategy and planning is the data volume and growth. Okay, so this is going to help you to understand the right type of node to choose from and the number of nodes. So if you are expecting data volume or data growth that is very high, okay, or the way you get your data is very high or very fast or very slow, something like that, that would really inform you of the decision of choosing the right node type and also the number of nodes that you need to include in your Redshift data warehouse. The next thing you want to do is the schema design, where you plan the schema design. We are going to do that once we are done with all of these slides. We're going to start with the schema design, where we design the logical view of the architecture of the schema we're going to be implementing on our data warehouse. Okay, then the final thing is the ETL process, how you do the extraction, the ETL process of extracting, transforming, and loading, which is something like we'll be using something like Glue in this course, but you can also use something like data pipeline or third-party ETL to drop data into your S3 bucket or to run all your commands that you're going to be working with. Okay, so the next thing you want to work on is the security and compliance. So this is very key. We already discussed this earlier in the understanding of AWS services. Security and compliance is a very key part of the system where you have the IAM rules and policies, which is something that is non-negotiable. You are going to be understanding the network security, the encryption and compliance requirements. These are the kind of things that you need to take into consideration when creating a data warehouse. All right. So the next thing you want to do is performance and cost management. As much as possible, you want to reduce the cost while optimizing performance. That may not be 100% true in this case where you as much as possible you want to reduce cost, but it may be possible that the cost that you have may be more like relative to the performance you get. So the more performance you want, the higher your cost. So as much as possible, the node types and sizing will really help you to understand the kind of cost you are going to be incurring by setting up your Redshift data warehouse. Throughout the process of this project, the maximum for a particular month on AWS is $182. That's because I'm using a very low sized node type. But in the case where you are using a very big company, you're in a big company and you have a very high data set and your data is very huge, above 160 gig, you might have to increase the number of nodes that you have and the type of node types you have as well. That will also but that's, of course, the more you increase it, the more the performance benefit and also the cost incurred along the line. Now it's also possible under this particular aspects to understand the monitoring and optimization. You need to understand how to use something like CloudWatch for monitoring the cluster performance, and the AWS Cost Explorer to understand the cost that you are incurring on your nodes. Okay, so this is also possible. You can also adjust this based on needs and performance optimization and need. So if you have very high sizing, you can downsize it by the time you are incurring higher cost and you are not using them that much. You can reduce the cluster size and all that, and you can upgrade it as well. Okay. The next thing is the technical skill. So Redshift uses SQL for querying data. So proficiency in SQL will be very essential in this case. Now, basic understanding of database administration tasks like management of users, query optimization, and monitoring system performance will also come into play here. So as much as possible, you don't need all of these things before you can work on them, but it will be an added advantage for you to understand how each of these things work and how you can leverage them in your environment. So the next thing is backup and recovery. So when you are implementing in a production environment, backup and recovery is non-negotiable. They are very critical. As much as possible, you want to schedule snapshots in the system to ensure that each time, maybe every day or every week or something like that, you keep backing up your system in case there's a failure in the system crashes or something like that. And also the disaster recovery process or this DRP, disaster recovery planning, should also be in place where you plan for Mayday where things go wrong and you can easily roll back to a good successful point. Okay, then the final thing that you need is documentation and support. So you should be able to use the AWS extensive AWS documentation that is available for Redshift. And if you need to get the support of professionals like AWS professionals, you might want to consider subscribing to the support plan. Okay, these are some of the steps involved in designing data warehouses. So the first thing is the designing of the business use cases. We are going to discuss this in detail shortly, but let's just identify them first. So identifying the grain, designing the dimension, designing the fact, ETL process, implementing slowly changing dimensions, testing and validation, and finally documentation, and training. These are the 8 things that you need to take into consideration when designing your data warehouse. Now, let's take each of them one by one and break them down. So when you are defining a use case, you need to understand the business process, which is the things that are key to the business processes and the data warehouse will be supporting. This could involve something like sales reporting, customer behavior analysis, financial transactions, as many as possible. Okay, and then you understand what questions that you need to use your Redshift or your data warehouse to answer for the stakeholder. So these are the things that you need to get. These are the requirements that you need to gather from the stakeholders to understand what you need, the kind of answers they want, and the kind of data they are going to be needing access to. Now, understanding and identifying the grain. So you need to define the grain where you have the most detailed level at which data will be captured. So let's say you have a fact table, you need to understand the transaction information of a particular customer. That means you need to get the transaction that is performed by a particular customer at a particular time in a particular day, okay, and which channel was used, the location that this transaction happened. These are the kind of things that you need to capture in a detailed level in your facts table. Now, for each of the business processes, you need to identify precisely what each business process is going to be needing. Now, something like in sales data warehouse, when you are working with something like sales data warehouse, a grain would be something like each line of the item will be a sales transaction. Something like that could be applicable. Then the consistency, you make sure you are consistent to make sure that all the grains that are defined are consistent across the data warehouse so that you don't run into confusions and you ensure accurate reporting. Now, how do you define a fact table? The first thing you need to do is identify the facts, which are the measurements and metrics that the business user wants to analyze. And based on that, you go into the grain definition, identify the facts, and store them and try to validate afterwards. The next thing is to validate design the fact table structure, where you get the keys that are linked to each of the related dimension tables. Then each of these facts table will now degenerate into the dimensions, and you can roll down and roll up during with something like an ID that is coming from a particular customer or a transaction ID or something like that. You can use that to roll down your transactions and roll it up again. Now, designing dimensions. So the way you design dimensions, these are the things that goes into the facts table. Now, these people are the ones that are providing context for facts. So for each of the table, you need to identify what dimension will be linking to facts. So just like I mentioned, dimensions could be something like time, the geography, the customer, the product. So each of them are atomic, and something like product, for instance, is atomic. You don't have the same product duplicated. So if you have duplicated products, then your figures will be duplicated. So you want to make sure that your dimensions are atomic and they are not duplicated. Okay. Then the next one is to design the tables. Now, when you are designing a product dimension, for instance, you want to get something like a product ID, the name, category, and price. These are the things that are that will help you to define a particular product in your dimension. The same thing goes for something like customer, the geography, and the location and stuff like that. So that's what are these are the kind of things that you take into consideration when designing your dimension. The next thing is the hierarchy. Something like date hierarchy is very important when you are reporting. So you have your date, year, quarter, month, and day, and each of them disintegrate, and of course you can roll them down and roll them back up from day to month to quarter to year to date and stuff like that. It's easy to do the rolling down. Once you have the right hierarchy in your data, that can be easily done. Now, once you've been able to design the dimension, how do you load the data? So there are different ways of doing that, but the general approach is to use the ETL approach, or you use the ELT approach, whichever way, it's still extract, transforming, and loading, or extracting, loading, and transformation afterwards. Okay, so it's just to populate the dimension and the fact tables. Now this can involve extracting data from the source systems, transforming it to fit the data warehouse schema, and loading it in directly into the data warehouse. In our case, we didn't do so much more transformation. We're just doing, as much transformation as required, but in some cases you might have to do a lot and heavy transformation on your data before loading it into your data warehouse. The next thing you want to do is ensure data quality and data cleansing. So this part is very key. If you get your data, or your process might be fine, but the data could be duplicated or triplicated or something like that, if that's a word like that. Your data could be fine, your process could be fine, but your data is not okay. So this is where data quality comes in, to ensure that your process is okay as well as your data is fine as well. Now, the next thing you want to do is, which is number 6, is to implement slowly changing dimension. Now, this is where you manage the dimension changes. Something like a customer that changes their address. You already have the old address in the system, but they change the address, or they immigrate, or they change their location, or something like that, or the price of a product changes, and you want to track the old prices of a product, or the locations of a particular customer, which is very key when you are doing something like a fraud management, or you want to prevent fraud. Okay, so you want to get the historical records of a particular customer, the price changes of this particular customer, and stuff like that. Now, SCD is divided into maybe 3, that could be more, but the first one is the SCD1, which is something like overwriting, where you have a customer ID, the customer changes their location, then you just overwrite their location if the historical record is not important to you. So SCD1, promises you that for each customer ID, for each ID that you have, you can easily overwrite the records. That's SCD1. SCD2 creates a new record and updates the previous record. Okay, so let's say a particular customer changes their location, all right, and then you have information of their location. How do you handle that? The customer record comes into the system as a new record, but the old record is invalidated as the old record. So let's say your current flag will be no for the old record, and the current flag will be yes for the new record. The end date for the old record will be the date that the new record comes in, and the new record will have end dates of no. Something like that is how you handle the SCD2 type. Okay, then the third part is the type 3, where you had new attributes. Maybe you weren't capturing the email address of a particular customer before. SCD type 3 allows you to add new feature to this particular customer in the system. So something like soft delete can also be handled by having some incremental model in the system. So this is also something you manage with your SCD. This is the benefits of SCD in the system. You want to think about it, and this also will be covered in this course as well. Now, testing and validation is something you want to take very seriously. Now, testing for accuracy is 1, and validating business use cases is 2. All right. The first one is accuracy of your data warehouse. You want to see the source data is the same thing as your mass layer, where you are serving the customers or the business users. All right. In our medallion architecture, we have the bronze, the silver, and the gold. You want to make sure that the data that you extracted from the bronze is the same thing in the gold layer, which people are consuming. You don't want duplicated data. You don't want missing data or missing record or under-reporting, data as the case may be. Then the final thing is to validate with business user. Now, this can be done in 2 ways. Number 1 is having data quality rules that is going to be validating the business use cases of these particular business users that have been given to you when you are designing your data warehouse. The other thing is to ask them to manually validate their business use cases, which may not be 100% possible. There might be some executive management that will not be sitting down and validating the records one by one. So what you want to do in that case is, have a business rule that validates these business use cases and requirements on their behalf, so that you understand the data quality percentage. Let's say you have 0.005 allowance for errors or margin of errors. So in that case, you have 99.9995 as your accuracy. So that way you can say this data I'm confident is 99.995% accurate. So the 0.05 may be precision issue with the data, which is negligible. Something like that can be something you want to think about. Now, finally, the documentation and training. Now, the first thing you want to do once you are done with the process, while you are doing the process, is to document the design of the system, the ETL process that you develop, you document it, and any business rules that you apply will also be documented. Luckily for us, DBT allows us to generate the documentation, so you don't have to manually type in or do all the manual documentation by yourself. Then eventually, this documentation can be handed over to someone else or taken over to the IT support or something like that for maintenance and future development. They can use this particular documentation to do that. And eventually you can use this particular documentation to train the end users on how to use the data warehouse and BI tools effectively to extract insight and make data-driven decisions. So these are the kind of things that you use documentation and training. Now that we understand why we need to work with this and how to design our business use cases, let's put this into practice and see how that goes. So let's start with the logical design of the system. Now, I understand that we are going to go into the logical architecture very shortly, but before we do the designing, it is best we understand the business use case for this. Now, we are going to be focusing on something like a simple bank where you have customers, you have transactions, you have loans and investments. How do you manage all of this? Very huge transactions that are coming into the system. How do you generate record data for them? How do you ingest this data into your data warehouse? And how do you create a robust pipeline that gives you confidence and high level of accuracy in the data that you are bringing into the system and presenting to the stakeholders of your business? This is the background use case, the general high level background use case of that. This now transforms into the logical view that we're going to be designing shortly, because this is more like the high level view of the business process, but the data management part of it, where we talk about the data manipulations and data warehouse storage of the data that is being generated across different channels of the system, whether you have a core banking system or core business application, or you have something like different channels that you're working with, a mobile business applications that you're or web application that you're generating data from. All these data that are coming in, we will be able to analyze them into the system by creating an holistic overview of our data warehouse. So this is what we're going to be tackling in the logical section. So let's get into that and get started with it. So to get started, we're going to go into draw.io or app.diagrams.net. If you prefer something like Lucid Chat or any other tools, you can also use the same thing. They are pretty much very close to each other, but I just prefer draw.io. If you like any other devices, you can use that as well. So I'm going to be creating a new diagram. I'll call this logical view. Now in this logical view, I'm going to be selecting the entity relationship diagram because that's what we want to do. And this is going to create a simple, yes, I'll be picking the root folder. So if you don't want to link this to your Google Drive or something like that, you always use that, but I'm linking this to my Google Drive anyways. So yeah, this provided us with a simple and straightforward architecture here, where you have the customers relating to the orders and the shipment. But one thing that I want you to also understand, to also note, is this entity relation at the bottom left corner of the screen here. So in this entity relation, you see the different views here. You have the tables with the primary key and foreign key and all of this stuff here that we can use to design our ERD, right? So in this case, you have all of these, the relationship 0 to many, 1 to many, and all that stuff. So that will also be applicable in our case. So let's just get started with that. So I'm going to just rename this. There's no need to create everything from the scratch again. I'm just going to start with, renaming this to something like dim customers. So because this is where we have our dimensions. So dimensions are usually meant to be atomic, where you don't have duplicated records in there. You only have a single record inside a dim. So for a particular dim customer or dimension of customer, you are having all information related to a single customer row by row. So if you have 1 million rows in that dim customer, you have 1 million records of customers, and that means 1 million customers with different unique attributes and all that. Okay, so going back here, have a dim customer here, and I'm going to have a primary key of customer ID not null. Good. And then we have the, instead of customer name, I'm just changing this to first name, and this is going to be character 50. You can always change this. So let's add additional rows. You just add another row here. I just add a couple of more rows here, so we can make things a little bit more interesting. Okay, so first name, we have the last name, we have the character 50 as well, and not null. I'll just copy this. I'll be replicating this a couple of times. Last name, we have email. Okay, this is not going to be, email is not going to be 50, let's say 30 maximum. And address, let's add address as well. Character 50 is not going to be enough. 255 for the address. We have city. Okay, city may be null, it may not be, so it depends. I'll just put it as not null. And we have the state. Just put that there. And postal code. So I'll just put the postal code, a maximum of postal code of 10. And just add additional. So the reason why I'm sticking to the limited number of characters is to, as much as possible, maximize the efficiency of memory management. So if you have something like a name and you're giving it let's say 255, first name is just about maybe maximum of 15 characters. So if you give it 255, it's just going to add additional memory space that you don't really need. So it's going to just be taking up unnecessary space. So that's why I'm using something like that here. So going back here, I have my postal code. I just change this as well to phone number, phone number. Okay, and I'll just delete this last one. Okay, so that's my dim customer sitting here pretty nicely. I'll delete this for now. The relationship is going to be addressed much later. So let's get our other dimensions as well. So I'm just going to replicate this, and this is going to be our dim date. So we want to get the date for the particular customer. But in the other way around, you might want to decide if you're going from the architecture that we just discussed. You want to identify the grains, go to the facts, then the dimensions, right? So because I already did this just behind, that's why I'm just going straight to the dimensions. But what you want to do, if you are just starting from the scratch, is going through the facts, then to the dimensions. In fact, that's what I'm going to do next. So instead of going through the dimension to the fact, I'll just go from the facts to the dimension. So let's go back and fix that. Okay. So I'm just going to, in my orders here, I was thinking of starting with the dimensions before. So I'm going to just have my fact transactions here. So this would be fact transaction. So this is going to be everything that we want to see based on our business use case in our case. Okay, so everything we want to see is going to be contained in these transactions. We can also add additional fact tables in there, but let's stick to these ones for now, and then we get the relationships which we can now build more facts on. Okay, so here I have my fact transactions, and just change this to transaction ID, and this is going to be integer and not null. Okay, not null. Okay, so it's going to be a primary key as well, and the rest of the information here are going to be majorly foreign keys, really, because that's what the fact is usually meant to contain. Okay, so we have the customer ID, we have the, let's add the transaction date here. So this will be transaction date ID. So that's going to be integer as well. I'll just copy this. Okay, so if you decide to use something like a UUID in this case, then it's going to be it's not going to be integer, it's going to be a string. Okay, so we have the transaction date ID. I want to get the channel ID as well, channel ID. Then let's get the account ID. What else? So transaction type ID. Then we have the location ID. We have the currency ID. It's going to be that. And we can have the transaction amount if you want, or not. So maybe I'll just put transaction amount here. Okay, and this would be decimal. Most likely it's not going to be changing, so I'll just put 12,2 here. In fact, I'll put 18,2, and finally I'll just put this as not null as well, not null. And finally I'll just add one more record here and get the transaction status. Okay, and that would be a character, maybe 15 maximum. Okay, so basically what we're saying here is saying, okay, in this our first transaction, we want to get the transaction, the customer that performed the transaction, at what date or time, the channel that the customer used, the account of that particular customer, the type of the transaction type, maybe it's online transaction, mobile, web, and stuff like that and stuff. That's the channel, but the transaction type as well. Then we have the location where the transaction happened, the currency that the transaction happened in, the transaction amount, and the transaction status. Okay, those are the kind of information we want to see here based on our use case. Okay, so I'm just going to add, in fact, I'll just this would be FK2, foreign key 3, this one foreign key 4, foreign key 5, foreign key 6, foreign key 7. We just leave it at that. So in your own particular use case that is tailored to you, you might want to increase the number of information you want to see in your fact table. But I don't want this video to be too long, so that's why I'm limiting it to maximum of 7 in this case. And this really serves my use case really. Okay, so let's go back in here. I have my fact transactions here. So that means I'm going to have different dimensions here. The customer dimension, transaction date dimension, channel, account ID, transaction type, location, currency. Those are the connecting dimensions that I'm going to be having in my logical view. Okay, so here I'm going to just change this to dim date. Okay, in fact I'll just replicate this guy here, and in here I'm going to have dim date. Okay, so based on fact, so this will be dim date. So I'm going to have a date ID here. It's going to be primary key there, and the date is going to be, this one will be the date. Okay, the date that the transaction happened. We have the day, it's going to be not null. Just copy this, and we have the month. Then we have the year that it happened. Then we have the quarter. Okay, and that will be not null as well. We have the week, day. This will be maybe string or car. Let's put a car, and I think about maybe 12 or 15 there, not null. Okay, then I think we can still have other informations like maybe half of the year or something like that here, but I'll just leave it as this. Okay, I just removed the last record there, so the date is also fine here. So let's get in. The next thing is to get in our channel. We have our customer, we have the transaction date, we have the channel. So let's get in our channel as well. So the channel is going to be just duplicated here, and the channel is going to have channel ID here, and the channel name, which is going to be character of 255 and not null. Okay, then I'm going to just just have this here, channel name. That's all that I need. And you can also add something like is current, is active, and all that, so on, and apply different kind of SCD in there. So but for now, just stick to something very not too complex. So then we have let's have the what's here. So interestingly, you might want to also add one other thing here, which is the loan information of this particular customer. Okay, so we have the maybe the loan ID, if there's any, integer, and this will be foreign key 8. Okay, so the loan might be optional. You may not need a loan here for that particular customer, but for now, let's just leave it at that. Okay, so let's get in our dim loan here. Okay, dim loan, and this will be just the loan ID. Then we have the loan type, which is going to be character 50, loan amount. We have the interest rate. Okay, so nothing too complex here. So I'm trying to keep things as simple as possible. Okay, 10,2, and let's say the loan amount is decimal as well, and 18,2. Okay, so it's not going to be null, because once you take a loan, it has to be at a particular rate and price. Okay, amount. So I'll just delete the rest of the information here. Okay, and remove this as well, and remove this from here as well. Good. So our dim loan is good now. The next thing is to get other information here. Maybe we have the account ID as well, where we have the account dimension. So I'll just duplicate this and put this just beside here. In fact, let me just minimize this for now. I have the dim customer, and change this to dim customer to dim account. So this is going to contain account information here, which is going to be account ID, and we're going to have the account number. This is going to be a maximum character of 10, but interestingly, you can have something like the international IBAN number. You can have that separately, but I will leave this account number as 10 maximum. Okay, we have the customer ID here. Maybe I can increase it depending on the geographical location. So maybe 20 will be fine. Some account number might be longer than 10. Okay. We have the account type. Okay. We have also account balance, and this would be decimal. The decimal is going to be 18,2. I don't want to have more than 2 decimal places. Okay, so if your use case increases that, I just increase this a little bit. Yeah, if your use case needs to have more than 2 decimal places, you can do that. Then you can have the credit score. Okay, credit score, and this will be integer. Okay, and I'll just remove the rest of the records here. Like I said, all these things can be adjusted based on your need, and you can also increase the number of attributes that you're getting from here. But I'll just leave this as that for now. Okay, so if there's any other need for increasing that, we can always add to them. Okay, so let's get in our dim transaction type as well, based on what we have in here. Transaction type, and this will be our transaction ID. Transaction type ID, not transaction ID. And we have a description here. Description, the character is 255, and just remove this as well. Remove this and remove this. Okay, good. Then we have the next one, which is location. I'll just use something longer than that so I can replicate that easily. Yeah, this will be our dim location. Yep, and here we're going to have location ID. We have the address where the transaction happened. Just change this to 255. Okay, and the city it happened. that's if you are noticing something, you might want to ask why we have the customer records here and the location here. This is about the customer, and this is about where the location of the particular transaction. Okay, so you can use the same one for transaction and customer, but I just want to have the transaction location separately aside from the customer. Okay, so I have the state as well. Let's say 50 and country. Okay, and that would be character of 50. Okay, and there's no need for credit score. I'll just remove credit score from here, and here we have our location. So good. We're getting close to the end of the dimensions here. Then the final one, I think, depending on what I have there, we're going to have the dim currency, dim currency, dim currency, and this will be currency ID. That's going to be an integer, so the name of the currency that it happened in, and we have the ISO 3 code for that particular currency, something like GBP, USD, and stuff like that. Okay, and that would be 3 character. And active, we can do active, and that would be boolean. Okay, boolean. Okay, and by default that's going to be yes. Okay, so if you want to disable a particular currency, you can just turn that to off, toggle it. So just as I was thinking, just in my head, there's something, if you want to track as well, it's called investment. So we might want to have the investment here, investment type. Okay, so let's just get that in. It's not compulsory, but in our case, this might just work for us. Investment type ID. Okay, so that would be investment type name, and I would just remove the other things here. Okay. Okay, so this is one of the facts here, and we can easily establish relationship based on what we've just done so far. We can easily establish a relationship between the fact and dimensions here. But what I want us to do, once we are done with the relationship building between the dimensions and the fact, we're going to add additional facts, and we see how we can just connect these same dimensions to other facts as well. So let's quickly do that. So our customer here, we're going to be looking for one to many here. One to many, this one. Just have, so in our fact, we are going to have many records in the fact linking to one dimension. So in our case here, we have our dim customer here. We link this to the customer, and we link this to the customer ID. Okay, and that will be our first relationship. So the next relationship will be between the date, so which is the date ID here and the data ID here, the transaction date ID and the data ID. Okay, then the next one will be the channel. Just link this and come back to the channel here. Where is the channel? Do we have the channel? We don't have a channel here, so let's create a channel. This is supposed to be the dim channel. Okay, dim channel, and we just link this to the channel here, and that is good. Then the next one will be to link the account ID here. So I'll just duplicate this, and this will go for the account ID here, and we can move this just above here. Okay, account ID. Then we have the transaction type. Let's get that in as well. Transaction type to the primary key, this to be foreign key there. Good. Then we have the next one, which is our location. Yeah, and this will be connecting to that. And the final thing, I believe, no, not the final, the currency here will be connecting to the currency here. Good. And the next one, which is, I believe, the loan will be connecting over here to this team loan. Okay. And if you want to have the investment as well, you just come in here and add our investment ID here. So you can say investment type ID. Okay. It's going to be integer as well, and you can just connect that simply as just like that. Okay, good. And this will be foreign key 9, FK9. All right, that's done. We are done with the fact transaction. The next thing we want to work on is the fact daily balances. Okay, so I'll just get the daily balances here, and this will be fact daily balances. Fact daily balances. All right, and basically what we want to get in here is the balance ID, and we have the dates for that particular balance, which is going to be the date ID. Okay, date ID will be there. Then we have the account ID. We have the opening balance. Okay, opening balance. This is going to be decimal and 18,2. Okay, decimal balance, daily balances, and that's decimal. And we have the closing balances, closing balance, and that will be decimal as well. Decimal 18,2. So it's going to be not null as well. And then we have the average balance, which is going to be decimal 18,2. Okay, and the rest is just it's not unnecessary at this point. Okay, we just remove the rest. I believe we can just delete this. I'll just remove all of this, remove that, remove this, remove, and remove. Good. So our daily balances is fine as well, and you can just quickly establish a relationship. In our case, from balance ID here, which is a primary key, and we have the date ID here for the foreign key to the date. We have that to the date here, and we have for the account ID as well. Just duplicate this. This connects to the primary key here, and this connects to the foreign key just here. Okay, so depending on the relationship, you can also adjust this to maybe one mandatory, one optional, and stuff like that. But I'm just going to have one to many. I know we're not going to have any balance that doesn't have a dimension in this case. So that's why I'm using to one to many as my own choice. So if you have a different unique use case where you have to use some optionals here and there, you might want to do that as well. Okay, for the account ID, I have this. Okay, so that's supposed to go for account ID. Yeah, this is supposed to be for account ID. Okay, good. And that's that for the fact daily balances. So the next one is I'm going to have another fact here. Call this fact. Just move this here, and this will be fact customer interactions. Okay, so this is going to be the interaction between the customer as well as the channels, and maybe the transactions that are being performed. You want to see the information from there. Okay, so for our fact customer interactions here, we have just have our interaction information here. So we have interaction ID here, and here we have the data ID. Then if there's any particular customer we want to track, of course, it's going to be here. We have the channel information. By the way, these are not foreign keys. Okay, these are not foreign keys. Okay. Then I just realized that. And for this guy, we have the channel that the customer is interacting with, the channel ID, and this is going to be integer. Okay, so basically this means that this customer, we have this interaction on a particular date from this account to this particular channel. Okay, and if you want to add additional one, you can add the customer, but easily we can get the customer information from this account. Okay, but to make this easy, we can also add something like customer ID there, but I'll just leave it at that. I think you get the point. Interaction type is going to be character of 50 as well, and the interaction rating is going to be an integer. Okay, basically that's all we need, and these two are not going to be they are not going to be foreign keys. They're just going to be actual attributes. Okay, now so just additionally, we can add the fact loans as well, where you get the loan information. It's going to be here, fact loans, and this will be loan payments, by the way. And here we have the loan ID. Okay, loan ID. In fact, since it's loan payment, let's change it to payment ID so we can get the payment for that particular loan. We have the date ID here, and we're going to have this particular loan, the loan ID, and this particular customer that took it. So basically, this customer took this particular loan on a particular date, and this payment has been made. Okay, so that makes sense. All right, so we have the payment amount and then decimal 18,2. The payment amount is going to be not null. Okay, and then finally we have the payment status. Okay, so payment status, and that will be character 50. So by the way, so these are just representational, so it may not be the actual thing you want to implement in your own data warehouse. Just putting that out there. But eventually you might want to add all these additional records to identify the current records in the data warehouse and stuff like that. It can be as complex as you want, but I'm just keeping things not too complex and not too simple in this case. So we're trying to maintain a striking balance here. Okay, so and I think based on this we have let's get our final fact here, and that will be the fact investment information here based on the dimensions that we have there. So we have the fact investments. Okay, basically we have the investment ID, transaction ID. Maybe investment ID is fine. We have the date that it happened, then the investment type ID, and then the account that made the investment, the account that it happened on, or a particular customer, depending on what you want really. I'll just leave it at account. You can change it to customer if you want, and the amount invested, and that will be decimal 18,2, and then investment return. This will be the agreed percentage or something like that, investment return, and this will be decimal. Okay, and let's leave it at that. Good. This looks a regular bank. It looks like a regular bank. So let's get our interactions mapped to the dimensions as well. Okay, so let's bring this guy in, and this will be coming from here to the date. All right, and this will be the date ID coming here. Then we have the account ID. Do we have account here? No, it's on the other side. So we move the account here, and the account ID is going to be here. Then the account information will be linking to that. Then we have the channel that this happened on. The channel is on this side. So channel ID will be here. 320. Channel ID. I'll just put it on this side. Good. And the channel, just drag this and that, drag that to this, the channel ID. Okay. And then we have the dates again for the fact loan payments. Just get the dates here and the dim dates. Yes. Okay, and then we have the loan. Where's the loan? Yeah, it's on this side. The loan is here, and we have the loan ID, and finally we have the customer. The customer is still on this side as well, isn't it? Yep, it is. So I'll just get in the customer here, and that would be connecting to the customer here. Good. And then I think the final thing is the fact investment, and that would be the date ID. I'll just duplicate this, come to the date ID here, and link to the date, okay. And the investment type is on this side. I'll just move this here, investment type ID, and we get this into the primary key there. And the account ID, the account is on this side. I'll just duplicate that and get the account mapped to this guy, and easily this maps to the account as well. Good. And that's the logical view. Basically everything is kind of connected here. So you have the customer information here, you have the customer information sitting there pretty nicely. We have the DIM account, and all of that DIMs are also connected here. So I think this is a good point to start the yeah, everything is fine, I believe. So this would be a good point to start designing our physical view and trying to implement all of this. So before we do that, let's go to the AWS and create our Redshift cluster that we're going to be implementing the physical architecture with. Now you can create your Redshift by coming to here and typing in Redshift and the search bar there, and you get to this page. Okay, once you do that, you are on this page already. Now you need to create a cluster, but before we do the creation of clusters, we need to create a VPC. Okay, so we need to come into our VPC section here. Just close all of this and just type in VPC here, and I'll just click on VPC on a new tab. And here you can see the available VPCs and the subnets where they are available as well. So I'll just create a new VPC. So I'm creating a VPC and more. And here I'll just remove the auto generate. Okay, maybe auto generate should be there. Then the name, I'll call this YouTube Redshift. Yeah, I'll call this YouTube Redshift VPC. Now the CEDAR block is what I'm going to change to 172.3.1.0.0.16. I'll change this to 20. Okay, so this gives me 4,096 IP addresses, and then no IP version 6 here. I'll just leave it to one availability zone. There's no need to have multiple availability zone in my case. Public subnet will be 1, and private subnet will be 1 as well. Then the NAT gateways, I'll leave it as none. And VPC endpoints, I'll leave it as that as well. Everything else is remains the same. And I'll just say create VPC. So this creates VPC with maybe 2 subnets for me, and then creates an internet gateway for that. And if you look at the VPC, how it looks like, this is how the network, the flow looks like, and the resource map. You can see we have the VPC that is broken down into 2 subnets and two route tables, for one public, one private, and this is my route table here, and you can see the network connection to each of them, which is good. So this is what I have, and the CEDAR block is this. The CEDAR IP version 4 is that. You can see the CEDAR here as well, the flow logs, nothing in the tags and integrations, everything is fine. Good. So that's the VPC we are going to be using. It's called YouTube Redshift VPC. So coming back here, I'll just click on clusters again and create clusters. And here I'll say YouTube Redshift. All right, Redshift DW. Okay, and I'll choose the type that I want. In this case, the node type. I'll be using this too large and one number of node. The AWS user is going to be my username, then manually adding the admin password. I'll have the SQL password $1, and you can see what the password looks like. SQL password $1. For the IAM role, I'm going to create a new IAM role. So I'll create a new IAM role to any S3 bucket, and they'll say create IAM role as default. So this is the default role. I'll remove this one from here. And yeah, I'll remove IAM role. Good. So I'll leave that as it is. And you can see the role type is default, and this is the IAM role there. Good. And just below this, I have the additional configurations. I'll just select use default. I'll untick that so I can easily activate the things that I'm working with. So in my case, you can see my YouTube Redshift VPC is created but is not activated. So I believe you are going to have the same challenge as well. So to fix that, you need to come in here and come to the configuration section here. If you click on this arrow below beside that and you click right click on that and open in a new tab, you'll see the subnet groups here, and you can create a subnet cluster group. Okay, cluster subnet group. So I'll say cluster subnet group for YouTube. I'll say subnet group, and this will be YouTube Redshift. Okay, and the description is YouTube Redshift subnet cluster subnet group. Okay, cluster subnet group. Good. And the VPC that I'm attaching this to is the YouTube Redshift VPC. And I'll add all of the subnets for this VPC, which are the two subnets that I have in here. And I'll just say create cluster group. And if I do a refresh here, you should be able to see it here. So if I come back here to this guy and default sub, yeah, where is it? Default here, I need to do a refresh on this page. I'll just do a refresh. Okay, and this will be done again. YouTube Redshift DW, and this is DC large one node, no sample data. The password is SQL password $1. Okay, and you can see that in there. The role is still the same thing that I applied before, and uncheck this network and security instead of default VPC, and you can see this is now activated. I can click on the YouTube Redshift VPC now, and the VPC groups in here, this is the 25BA. All right, the default 25BA security group. Okay, then in my case, I'll leave this as subnet group and no preference VPC routing. I'll leave it at that. Then the turn on publicly accessible. Okay, I'll leave it at that. And there's an elastic IP address here. I'll leave it as that. I don't need this elastic IP address. I'll just leave it as that. Okay. Then no database additional database configuration. I'll leave it at that. Maintenance will be that. Monitoring and backup will be as it is by default. And then create cluster. So while this is ongoing, the security group that is attached to this particular cluster, if you look at this, you click on, okay, still creating, and we just wait a few seconds for that to be done. Shouldn't take too long. So, but it's creating. So while this is going on, we need to go to the security groups. Let's see, can we see the security groups here? No. So we can type in security groups here, and you can open a new tab. This is VPC groups, and open a new tab there. And so there are two security groups here. You have to be mindful. There is EC2 feature and VPC feature. So what you want to select is the VPC feature security group, so not the EC2. Okay. So coming back here, I have I think it's 25BA that have just been created for me. And you can see in the inbound rule here, there's nothing additional here. I'll just click on edit inbound rule. And for this, I had a new rule. I'll call the rule Redshift. Okay. And I can select my IP address and save rule. That's done. And come to the outbound rule as well. I just edit that. This may not be applicable, but I'll just add it as well. Okay, my IP address. Good. Save rules. And once that is done, I go back to my cluster and wait for it to finish initialization. So we can just wait a few more seconds for this to be done. It took roughly 15 minutes for the creation of the Redshift to be done. So just to quickly do a recap of the changes you've just made, if you click on the edit, you should be able to see the network and security section. And if you look at the default security group here, you see it's 25BA here, which is the same thing as what I have in here, 25BA. And you make sure that you had your IP address just here in the destination for the Redshift. Do the same thing for the inbound and the outbound as well. That's all you need to do to be able to connect to Redshift on your local machine. Now, going back. Now, at this point, we need to create a connection to our Redshift data warehouse that have been created on the cloud. But the way we do that is to connect through something called DBeaver. It's an IDE, but you can use other IDEs like SQL Workbench, or you use something like, if you're interested, Data Grip as well. So you might use something like that. So I'll just go back to my DBeaver here, as I already have it installed. So I just need to go back to DBeaver here. I already have it installed. I just click on the add connection here and type in Redshift, and this brings up Redshift logo here. So here I need to get in my connection. So you can either connect by host or by URL. I'll be using the URL. So coming back to my dashboard here, I click on the JDBC URL, copy that here. Just click on the copy endpoint here, and in the URL, I'll paste it there. Okay, then the AWS user, then for the password is SQL capital P password $1, just like before, and test connection. So you can see this is now reading the connection and it says connection is successful. Good. I just click on finish, and then we should have access to our Redshift data warehouse on our local system. And you can see in the dev section, you see schema, it has public and catalog here. Now, alternatively, you can also connect to this on the, you can also connect to the cluster from here. If you click on the cluster here and you see on the left, what did I just clicked? On the left here, if you click on that three dots, that looks like a bugger icon there, you should be able to see query editor. So you can click on query editor, the legacy or the version 2. So the version 2 here, clicking on that, you should be able to see something like this, and it should show you your Redshift data warehouse just here. And if you try to connect to that, it says, are you connecting as a federated user? But I'll be connecting as a database username and password. So the username in my case is AWS user, and the password is SQL password $1. Okay, so you can use any of this method to connect to your Redshift data warehouse, and this should automatically connect you to Redshift. And you can see this, it has AWS data catalog dev, the one we're connected to on our local system, and the sample data dev as well. Okay, so while that is done, there's no table, no views, and all of that. Good. Now we've been able to create that on our system. The next thing we want to do right now is to create the logical architecture. We've already created that in our draw.io. What we want to do is create the physical architecture now and implement that in our data warehouse. The way we do that is simply by loading data, by creating the relationship and structures on our data warehouse. Let's quickly do that. Okay, just close this up. I don't need that for now. So what I'm going to do basically is to get all of the data that will be used, and I'll use that to automatically create that. So two ways you can go from here. You can either create the tables manually, by typing create table, the name and the columns, the data types as well, and then the primary key anywhere it is, and then for each of them you repeat for all of them. Or another alternative is to get the data and use AWS Glue to crawl the data, and that automatically creates a table for you automatically, which you can connect your data warehouse to, and you'll be able to we'll be able to do that. I feel like we should do the AWS Glue alternative approach. So let's quickly do that. Okay, right now I'm going to open up my my terminal somewhere here, and So I already have a DW project that have been created here, and I have a main.py that is creating all of this. So I'll just delete all of these files, and this will be available in the description. So in case you are interested in using that, you can always do that. So I'll just run the Python main.py, and this will automatically create all of the dimensions, and you can see what the accounts look like. This is all the accounts, and these are all the structures in the system. So this, I specifically chose this approach, I mean the approach of pipe separator, simply because of the address in the customer information. I was talking about this customer information here, where you see the address for each of the customer being separated by comma. So while this is not a problem, you can still have a classifier that helps you, pass this on AWS Glue, but it's a little bit of hassle to, just to keep trying and iterating over that. So I want to prevent something like that. That's why I use the pipe separator. So you can use any other separator that you would like. And if you want to go to the route of comma separator as well, it works just fine. I mean, you just have to have a classifier that helps you do this on AWS Glue. Okay. So with this in mind, I already have this. So let's go to our S3 bucket. So in our S3 bucket, we will be able to, I'll just open this in a new tab. So just to do a quick round of check, if you look at the DIM customer, we have first name, last name, email address, of course, customer ID, first name, last name, email address, city, state, postal code, phone number, and that's exactly what is here. So all these structures have been, put in place on our logical view there. So going back here, just click on the test DW. I already have them here. I'll just delete all of them. So we can start the process afresh. I just delete all of this, and that is deleted. So what I'm going to do basically is go to add glue here, and my glue, I'll just open a new tab. And just here in my glue, AWS glue, I go to the crawlers here, and I'll call this YouTube Redshift DW. Okay, I'll add crawler to this as well. YouTube Redshift crawler. Okay, I think that's fine. Okay, I'll click on next. All right, so the data are not mapped yet to any glue. That's fine. So the data source, this is where the origin is going to be from. So the data is going to be coming in from our DML test DW. That's our data warehouse. If you can still recall, that's our data warehouse that I created. So it's a bucket that have been created in there. So right now, this is connecting to the root directory. So that means we are crawling all subfolders as tables. So technically, accounts, if you have an account folder, that's going to be crawled as a separate table. If you have customer folder, you can crawl that as separate tables as well. So as if you have an incremental mode where you have data dropping, say, every day into your folder, your accounts or customer folder, each day the data comes in there automatically, your Redshift will be automatically pulling that from there. So yeah, once that is done, we have the cross up folders, and going back here, cross up folders, yeah, subfolder is fine. There's no need to exclude any matching pattern in this case. Everything should be okay. And I'll just click on add S3, and that's our S3 data source in there. Okay, so if you want to add a classifier, so the classifier is where you have the specific mode of passing the content of your CSV. So I'm using the pipe separator in this case, so there's no need to activate any of my classifier in that case. All right, we should be good with that. So basically, in fact, let's do the classifier again. So in our case, we say this is going to be classifier name. I'll say YouTube Redshift classifier. Okay, so in this case, I have the CSV. I'll be using the open CSV SADI, and here I'll be using the pipe separator. So I'll say order, and here I'll be using the pipe separator. Okay, so that's my column delimiter. And the double quotes is of course double quotes, and the text heading. So if you are using the comma separator in this case, you have to select the comma and then you use the double quotes as well. This should be able to pass it just fine. So I'll be using this pipe separator anyways. So, and I'm using YouTube Redshift classifier. Okay, so that's my classifier. Did I just close the crawler? I think I did. Okay, I need to create a new one again then. So this will be YouTube Redshift crawler. Okay, and add data source S3 DML. Okay, DML test DW. Can we view that? Perfect. Okay, good. So crawler subfolders, add S3 source, and then next. Then, so before we continue, in our custom classifiers, we select the latest one, which is the YouTube Redshift classifier. And then next, so the IAM role that we're going to be creating in this case is going to be YouTube Redshift role. Okay, I'll just leave it at that. And then the lake formation, there's nothing. Security, that's fine. Then the database, let's create a new database. To add a new database, I'll call this YouTube Redshift. This is going to be our dev. Okay, so YouTube Redshift dev. All right, so I'll just create database and go back to Glue and do a refresh here and say YouTube Redshift dev. And for my prefix, I'll add ext to all of them. So we say all of these are identified as external data that are being pulled into our data warehouse. Just leave it at that. And the crawler schedule is going to be on demand. So you can put it as daily. So this runs every day. So you have to select what time is going to be running every day. But I'll be selecting on demand. Okay, so I can run it manually. And that's all I need to do to create my crawler. And the crawler is currently created. So I need to run the crawler now to see if everything, excuse me, if everything is created as expected. Why do I always type in Redshift? I think I did the same thing with our, yeah, it should be Redshift. Okay. But at least you get the point. Okay. So we just wait a few more seconds for this to finish running and we continue from there. My bad. I just realized that I haven't really actually uploaded any of those files onto my S3 bucket. So let's quickly do that. I just realized that right now when I just triggered that. So let's quickly do that. We have accounts. So I just put this on the side. So we have the account. So I'll put this here and this here. Okay, I'll just put this on the side like that. So we have the account folder, and this will be account. Okay, account. And I'll create another one. I'll call this channels. That should be accounts, not account. I'll just rename this. Rename. Can I rename? I should be able to rename, shouldn't I? Let's see. Rename object. Okay. Okay, I can't. So I just create a new one and delete that one. Account. Okay. I'll pluralize all of them. So I'll just delete this one. Permanently delete. Okay. Just close this. And I have channels. Then I have currencies. Currencies. Then create folder. Then create another one. Customers. Customers. Create folder. And create another one. Dates. Another one. Investment types. Just create that. And I create another one called loans. I create this. I create another one. transaction or locations. Another one, transaction types. Then customer interactions. We have daily balances. We have investments. We have loans, and we have transactions. Okay, there's loans already. We have transactions. Okay, so I have, if I just expand this a little bit to see what I eventually have. Okay, so I have, so customer interactions is a fact table. So I just need to, that should be, it shouldn't be fact interactions. Only DIMS should be that. I just rename, okay, I can't do that. Okay, just create a new one, call this fact interactions, fact customer interactions. Okay, and fact daily balances, fact daily balances, and fact investment. Okay, I think fact loans as well. Fact loans. Okay, so how many facts do I have now? 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that fact is fine. So I just need to remove the customer interactions, daily balances, investment, loans. I think loans is fine. I have a dim loans and the transactions. Okay, fact transactions. Okay, that's fine. I'll just delete all of this. And I should have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. Okay, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. Perfect. So let's upload data into account. I should be able to open in Finder. I'll just drag this here, upload, and upload that. That's done for accounts. Then we do the same for channels. Upload this. And we go for the next one, currencies. I'll upload currencies as well. Currencies, upload. And customers coming in, boom, upload, close that. Then dates, let's bring in dates. Okay, dates comes here, boom, upload, close that. Then the next one is fact investment type, dim investment types. Okay, just bring that in as well and upload this. Okay, and the next one is loans. I just bring in loans as well. Upload. The next one is locations. I just bring in locations here. and close that. Then we have the transaction types as well. Transaction types. I just bring this in as well. Okay, upload. Then we are left with the facts, which is the starting with customer interactions. Fact customer interactions. Upload that as well. And I am going to have fact daily balances. Fact daily balances. Upload. Okay, and fact investment here. Upload. We have fact loans. Fact loans. Okay, bring this in as well. And the fact transactions. Finally, fact transactions. I just bring that in as well. Okay, upload. Good. Now we have all our data here populated as expected, and everything is in plural form. So I just need to go back into my crawler and rerun all of them. Rerun crawler again, and we just wait a few more seconds for this to be done. Okay. By the way, if you want to be able to see all the codes in here and all that, you can follow the link in the description to Data Mastery Lab. All of these are discussed in details, and we talk about all of them. If you can just take your time to go through Data Mastery Lab, you have access to all of the codes in there, and the steps taken to get all of the code, the decisions that are made in there to get the main.py that generated all of these DIMs and facts. Okay, so while that is mentioned, we'll just wait a couple more seconds for this to be done, and then we continue from there. Okay, so right now the crawler is done, and you can see it has 14 table changes, and all of these have been added to the system. You can see that in the table section, and if you click on databases, and right here I have the DML YouTube dev, and you can see all of this with ext and all that. Good, perfect. So now the next thing we want to do basically is to connect our Redshift data warehouse to our data catalog here. So the data catalog has been created on the DB on Glue, with Glue. The crawler has created the tables inside our data catalog. So a database has been created for us, which is the one that was just created. And right now we have all of the tables populated. So we can preview that with Athena, but you can always be sure that if there's any issue, you can always rerun the process of crawling, and the data will be auto updated. Okay, so now the next thing we want to do is connect our Redshift data warehouse to this data catalog that has been done. So while we do that, let's quickly do a quick check on this table to see if our account is loaded. So if account is loaded correctly, we can assume the rest will be loaded as well correctly. Okay, so you can see ext account. If I run this, do we have any data in there? No data at all. Interesting. So we have ext channel. Do we have anything in there? Nothing as well. Okay, so something is wrong somewhere then. Let's fix that. And in the crawler, where's our crawler? Crawler is here, and DML YouTube dev. And no, that's not the one. This is YouTube Redshift crawler. YouTube Redshift crawler, and this is crawling. Edit this, and this is the classifier. In this case is pipe separator, isn't it? Yeah, is pipe separator. That's the delimiter, and it's having this. So where is the source again? Data source. I'll just edit this data source. It looks like the data source that we had in there is probably not correct. This is DML test DW. It is correct. And dim account is here. So what could the reason be for not pulling the data? Let's see our classifier. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that should be fine. Then in the crawler section, YouTube Redshift crawler and this. Unless that I'm missing something here. Yeah, that should be fine. So why is this not loading data into that? YouTube Redshift dev. And this is connecting to account. Is that the right location? Yes, it is. Is pipe separated? Yeah. And this is the account ID. So the data is fine here. So it's able to pass all of this. But why is it not getting data into the table? That's really strange. Let's see table data again. YouTube. Yeah. It's wrong. I was querying the wrong database. So this is ext database. So this should be YouTube Redshift dev and ext account, and you can see them here. So I was like, what's going on here? So this should be, if you look at the columns here, this should be, this is what is supposed to be ext account. Then for the channels as well, you say ext channels, and then we run this again. Yeah, we should be able to see the data here. I was just wondering why that was not happening before. So this is actually running DML YouTube dev. That's the wrong database. Okay. So that is done now, and everything is okay now. We are able to see the data here. We can now proceed to connect. Okay. So now connecting to our Redshift, we come here and open a new query window. So here we are connecting to dev, and we are connecting to public dev. Okay. So the next thing we want to do is write a query that helps us to connect to the Redshift data catalog from Glue data catalog from Redshift. Okay. So that is we just say create external schema. Okay, and that will be dev smart, not smart city. That will be call these brooms. Okay, dev brooms. Then this is going to be from data catalog, and the database that I want to connect to, what's the database name? That's YouTube Redshift dev. Okay, I'll copy that, and then YouTube dev, and then the IAM role that I want to use to connect to that is the one that I use to connect to my AWS Redshift here. What's the IAM role? This is the cluster there, and you can get the IAM role by coming here into the association here that you did. Let's see IAM role. Okay, I'll just type in IAM role here. Okay, just we can see it here. So you can see the roles here, and the role in this case is the Redshift. There are two here. Yeah, I should be able to see that from here. I think I'll just go back to the clusters, select this, and should be able to see I am role somewhere here. It's not here. Properties, I am role. Yeah, this one. This is 1152.115256. Okay. So I'll just come to the I am role here. I just click on this and it takes me straight here. I just need to copy this ARN. So this ARN is all I need to access that. But the challenge now is this doesn't have red S3 access. Okay. But let's see. It should be able to, it should be fine anyway. So, but the region is US East. Okay. US East 1. Okay. Let's run this and see if we are able to access that. YouTube Redshift Dev. This should be single quotes, not double quotes. Okay, the database in this case. Yeah, that's fine. So it's because of the dash here. That's why I need to put it in double quotes. So I just need to refresh this and we should be good. Yeah, dev bronze. And here you see the bronze here. Everything is coming in as external schema. So basically, just to do a recap, the Medallion architecture is a 3-level architecture where you have the bronze, the silver, and the gold. The bronze layer is where you have data in raw format where it has not been touched. The silver layer is where you do a little bit of transformation, and the gold layer is where you do the transformation and it's ready for consumption at that layer. Okay, so right now we have our bronze coming in directly from here. The next thing we want to do is, now that we've been able to do this, just comment this. Okay, and I'll just do select stuff from devbronze.ext account. We should be able to see this. Yeah, beautiful. So we're able to see the records in here. The next thing we want to do now is set up our DBT project that is going to help us connect to this. Okay, so I'll just create a new project. Just come in here. So I'll call this just DBT Redshift DW. Okay, so I don't need to create a welcome script. There's no need for that. Just no need for, yeah, I'll just create that. And once this is created, we can just drag this here so we can have access to that. So there's no need for virtual environments in this case. So all you just have to do is create your folder and we should be good. Okay, so in the terminal, this is the folder where I want my DBT project to be in. So all I just have to do is do pip install DBT Redshift. So if you do DBT Redshift, pip install DBT Redshift, you should be able to have access to DBT commands and all that in your machine. So this is installing, and this is why I need a virtual environment really. Okay, I don't want to use my local system for that, so I'm using the virtual environment. So while this is done, once this is done, we can now create our DBT project. We say DBT init. So DBT init is going to create our project for us, and that goes into the name of the project. It says digits, letters, digit, and underscore. So I'll be DBT Redshift DW. Okay, and press enter. It says, which database would I like to use? I'll be using Redshift. Thank you. What's going on here? So it's using the mini conda Python. So I'll just deactivate that. Conda deactivate. I do deactivate as well, and then I reactivate that. Okay, and deactivate. Which Python? So it's because it's using a different Python in this case. Okay, so I'll just quickly do pip install again. So yeah, it's already installed. I just need to do, where is this installed in? .env, is it? Yeah, it's installed in .env. So I just need to do dbt init again. That would be DBT Redshift DW, right? It's already created here. I'll just delete this one. And yeah, I'm using Redshift. Yeah, the host name in this case, let's get the host name. So coming back to my Redshift here, clusters, and click on this guy, and you can see the in my endpoint, this is my host name. My host name is here. I'll just paste it here. The port is 5439. Yes. The username is dev username, which is dev. Okay. I'll put that here. And I'll be using password in this case. So the password is SQL password $1. You'll be able to see this shortly. And the DB name, where the default database will be building objects in. So I'll say this will be building objects in I'll call this the bronze. This is the bronze, right? That will be dev gold, right? Dev gold. Okay. And the schema, the DB name is wrong. So the DB name should be dev, not dev gold. Okay, but I'll just leave it out. I'll change that. That will be the schema. I'll use 4 threads for that. And this is created. So you can see the data. The data is written into my profiles.yaml. So let me just quickly get profiles.yaml into the picture here. And I have one project in there that I want to, I'll just remove the .dbt. Okay, in my profiles.yaml, 1 sec, I'll just quickly bring that in. So I have the Redshift here. So I'll just delete that. Okay. So for my profiles.yaml, so I'll just bring this in, and you can see this is inside my root directory for my Scholar project, Scholar user. You see it in the dbt folder and profiles.yaml. Okay. Now, once that is done, okay, you'll be able to see the username and password in this case. All right, the DB name, I need to update that to dev, is not dev gold, and the schema is dev gold. Even though we don't have the schema yet, I'll change this to dev bronze for now, just for the purpose of this. By the time we start having our different schemas, we should be able to have dev bronze and all that here. Okay, we have 4 threads, Redshift and all that. So I just need to go into the DBT Redshift folder. So there are 2 folders here. Please don't get them confused together. This is the root project and this is the DBT project. Okay, so in my DBT project is where I have all these codes here. Okay, so now we have the DBT is done, and this is my first DBT model and blah, blah, blah. So the first thing that I need to do is confirm that my configuration is fine and I'm able to connect to Redshift from my DBT. That's the very first thing before you start coding or do anything. Check your configurations that everything is working just fine. So the way to do that is just to do DBT debug. If you do DBT debug, it's going to use the profiles.yaml and the project name to connect to your DB. And let's see what's going on here. It says unable to connect. It says for more information, something is wrong with the, yeah, it wasn't able to connect to the, yeah, so the username will have, the password is SQL password, and this is our username, host name, the schema, the user. So the user is not dev, the user is actually AWS user. Okay, let's check this again. And we're checking that all checks passed. Okay, so please be careful of this. I was using the same name for the user, so that was different. Okay, so now that my all checks have been passed, this is the first step and all configuration is fine. So we are good to go and we can now fire on on the models and all the other things we want to discuss in this video. Okay, now the next thing we want to do basically is to get in our, so I'll delete this example, I don't need them, and once I delete that, I need to come into my DBT project here and remove the example here as well. Okay, now once this is done, let's get our first model. The first model that we want to do is getting our different layers of model. So we have the bronze, the silver, and the gold, right? So I'll just get in our models here, and I'll say make directory. These are bronze. If you look at the bronze here, this is test. Make directory. Say models bronze dimensions, and models bronze facts. Okay, model bronze facts. Okay, and here we should be able to see our bronze models and facts. So basically I'll just copy everything here and paste it here so we can just save time on that. So basically we have bronze with dimension and facts, okay, and gold dimensions and facts, silver silver dimensions and facts. Okay, I'll just rename this. Okay, facts. Okay, so technically these are 3 layers, right? So we have our bronze that is coming in directly from this guy into the bronze layer, and then we have the silver. So technically the bronze is taken care of. I'll just remove the bronze from here. We only need the silver and the gold. Bronze is already taken care of directly in here. So I'll just clear this up. In our dimensions, we need to get in our first model in the dimension layer for our silver. Okay, so in our silver, we need to create our models there. So, but let's do a little bit of configuration in our DBT project before we continue. So technically, we are going to be accessing the silver, the bronze, and the gold layer throughout our DBT project. So to make things a little bit easier and simpler, we'll be using variables. So we can use something like bronze schema to access the bronze schema, then the silver schema, the gold schema as well. Okay, so let's quickly do that, and that would be vars here. We have a vars here, and we have a silver and the gold layer. Okay, so this is the dev silver, dev gold, and let's get in our bronze as well. So we have the bronze schema, and that will be dev bronze. Okay, just like we have in here, dev bronze is our schema here. We are going to be having dev silver as our schema and dev gold as our schema. Okay, so final thing that we need to do here, so to finalize the configuration, is that in this I'll just quickly disable my Copilot here. Thank you, Copilot. Disable completions. So we have 3 layers. We have the silver, we have the bronze, silver, and gold. Okay, and we have the gold. So how do we want to materialize each of the contents of the tables, or the views on the model? So each of the content of the models, we want to materialize them as tables. So some will be materialized as views, and some as incremental. But for now, let's stick to tables. And then the tags for this is going to be dimension here, and inside our bronze, we are going to have dimension. We don't have bronze right now, do we? Let's see, we don't. So I'm going to just remove the bronze layer from here. That's not in our project. So we have the dimensions, and this will give us the materialized view of table. And the tags in this case is going to be dimension. Okay, tags is going to be dimension. Okay, dimensions. Okay, and the same thing will be done for our facts as well. I just materialize them as this will be facts. I'm materializing them as tables as well, and this will be facts. Okay, and the next thing we want to do is do the same thing for our gold layer as well. Okay, good. So we are materializing technically. So just to do a quick recap on this, for the silver and the gold layer, when you see the dimension, you are materializing everything in there as table and you are tagging them as dimensions. The same thing with fact and the gold layer as well. Okay, so each time we create any of them, we should be able to do that. Okay, so let's create our first model. So that will be the staging in here, dim account .sql, and in our staging dim account, we are going to have the so this is asking me to add the file to git. Don't ask again, add. Okay, so for our STG account, we need to have our first configuration, the configuration to identify this particular model. So the config in this case is going to be, we have a materialized, is going to be materialized as incremental. Okay, we have the alias. So this will override the DBT materialization that we had here. So if you don't do this, this is going to, if you don't have the materialize here, it's going to use the default materialization in our DBT project. So the alias in this case is going to be stg dim account. And the schema that we are working with, the schema is going to be var silver schema. This is silver schema. And the unique key in this case is going to be account ID. Then the incremental strategy for this particular model is going to be delete plus insert. Now you can implement several incremental strategies depending on your use case, but we're going to keep things not too complex and very simple. So this is going to be our incremental strategy. I'll just keep it as delete plus insert and the unique key so that any record that is coming in from the system is going to be deleted and inserted. So the incremental strategy is going to be when a new record comes in, check the unique key so that we don't have duplicate. If the record already exists, delete that record and insert a new one. That's the incremental strategy that I want to use. Now you might want to do something like append, where you do the old record, new record. That's a separate incremental strategy, and that will involve having something like SCD1, SCD2 to know the slow changing dimension and all that. That can be discussed in a separate video. And if you want very detailed information about all of this projects and all these SCD transformations, check Data Mastery Lab. You have everything you need in there. Okay, so that is done. We can now say select. Let's get in our columns from there. So the columns here will be, I'll just do select. I'll just quickly copy the column names here and I'll paste them here. Okay, select account ID, customer ID, account number, and the rest from there. Then I had another thing to this as get date. So this will be the date that, not get underscore date, is get date. Yeah, as a created date. Okay, so this is the, no, let's say created at, not created date. Okay, so once that is done, I say from, what will be our, in our case, we are going to be referencing the what's the name? The bronze schema. That's the bronze schema. That'll be var bronze schema. So I have bronze schema, okay, .ext account. Okay, so let's quickly check this and see if everything is working just fine and there's no syntax error or something like that. All right, so ext account, and I have stg dim account. So I just do dbt compile, and this should give me any error that I have. These are one is because I haven't really created the other parts. So if you check targets and you check compiled and you check the stg dim account, you see there's no record in here. So this is not right. One sec. might be wrong here. Just put this in here like this and compile this again. Yeah, you can see this is fine now. Good. So that's how to, yeah. So I was placing this the wrong way before. So it should be, the variable should be in the double curly brace and the other one should be outside of that. Good. So right now STG-dim account is taken care of. So what happens is this gets run and the data is inserted into STG-dim account. All right, so the next one is to access the channels as well. So STG channel. So I'll just quickly get in my channel in here, and we have STG-dim channel.sql, and that would give us access to the channel. So you can get the channel from running ext channels here, and if you run this, you have this as well. I'll just copy the column names. Copy column names. I'll just copy that and I'll say select this from that. Channel name, channel ID, and of course get dates as created at from, I'll just copy that from here, and this will be ext channels. Okay, so let's get in the configuration as well. Copy that and paste this in here. STG-dim channel, dim channel. If I can only type channel, the silver schema, then in that case, it's not going to be account ID, it's going to be channel ID. Okay, and this will be comma, and that should fix it for us. Okay, so STG-dim channel. We do the same thing for currency as well. STG-dim currency. Let's do that. Touch models. Oh, why am I putting everything in the gold? It should be in the silver, right? Yeah, it should be in the silver. It shouldn't be in the gold layer. That's an oversight from my hand. So yeah, it should be in the gold silver layer. So channel is fine now. So let's create a new one, models, and that would be silver, and then dimensions, and that would be stg-dim currency.sql. Okay, so I'll just paste that in here, and that will be currency ID. And let's quickly get in data from here, ext currencies. I'll run this. Just copy the currency columns here and say select. I'll paste that in here and tap this, and for the names, the naming here, I'll just copy that, and from here, and this will be comma get date. Okay, so we can have unique data across as created at. Okay, so that's for this is currency ID, currency. Okay, that's from bronze as well. Let's get the next one in. So we have the customer as well, customer.sql, and I'll just copy this, everything here, paste into the customer, change the stg-dim customer, and currency. I need to change this as well. Currency. Okay, almost forgot that. So this is stg-dim customer. Okay, good. And let's get in our columns from DBeaver. We have ext customers, and we run this. Just copy that, column names, and okay, and I'll paste this in here, and that will be comma. And we have the ext customers. Is it? Yeah, ext customers. Okay, that is done. The next one is to bring in the date, stg dim date dot sql. Okay, so I'll just quickly copy everything in here and paste it here and change this to stg dim date and comma. The unique key in our case is going to be date ID, and we can just quickly copy that from here, dim date, ext date, and that will be here. I'll just copy column names, copy that, and paste that in here and here. So additionally, once I have this, created art is fine. I'll just leave that as it is, ext date. Good. And yeah, I think this is fine. We can also get the next one, investment type.sql. And I'll just quickly copy this as well. Copy this guy and I'll copy this channel and paste it in the investment chart, investment type. xtg dim investment type. Okay, and that will be in the silver schema. Then this is going to be investment type ID. And I'll just go back to my DBeaver and then say investment types. Okay, and I'll run this and I'll just copy the column names. Okay, paste them in here, comma. Oh, by the way, let me double check if comma is present in here to avoid issues. Yeah, 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 good. Okay, so everything is having comma before created art. Good. So investment type ID is the name here, and I'll just copy this, ext investment types. Good. That's investment type. We have the loans as well. The loans.sql. And for the loans, I'll just quickly copy that. Where's the loans? I'll just copy the customer, copy that, put it in the loans, and then rename this loans. And that will be silver schema as well. Currency ID not. That will be the, okay, something is wrong. Customer should be customer ID, not currency ID. Yeah, just let me double check that. stgdim account, channel, currency, customer, date, investment type, loans. Okay, so customer is customer ID. And I was working on the loans. So the loans here will be loans ID, loan ID. Okay, and here I'll just come in here and type in loans. Okay, so I'll just copy column names from here and paste in here. Okay, so this will be coming from ext loans. All right, and yeah, that will be ext loans. The next one we want to work on is the dim location. That will be dim location.sql. And I'll copy the loans, everything in loans, and paste it in the location. All right. This will be dim location. And that will be coming from location ID. Just copy that, paste in here, location ID, and we can just quickly run this here, locations. I'll run this and I'll copy the column names from here and paste it here, comma, and tab that. So this will be coming from ext locations, and we have that from here. everything coming from the bronze. And finally, we have the transaction, dim transaction type. Okay. And that will be the last one in here. I'll just copy everything here and paste here. So that will be, excuse me, that will be dim transaction type, comma, and transaction type will be the ID here. That's transaction type ID. And I'll just have this transaction type, run that, types. Okay. Then I'll just copy this. So withdrawal, payments or transfer or deposit. Okay, and I think that's all we need to do in here. Good. So we have been able to get in our staging information here. So the next thing is to get in our facts information. But before we do that, let's do DBT compile to see if we have any issues so far on any of the dimensions. Okay, so let's see what we have here. Compiled in our gold. We need to remove this from gold. Okay, then in our silver, we have the dim account, just doing random checks. Good. So it looks like everything is fine and as expected. I'll just close all. Okay, so then the next thing we want to do is to get in our facts. So the facts will be coming from the bronze fact that we've already created. Everything is loaded with glue into our data warehouse on the facts table, and we need to pull that into our staging. So that's from bronze to staging. So if you want to add any transformations to this, we can do that right now in this to the staging and the STG facts. Okay, so that's what we want to do right now. So basically, we can I'll just open up the terminal again and touch. So models fact here, and yeah, models dot fact, and we get in our STG fact models. That will be models. Inside models, we have the silver, and then we have the fact. Okay, STG fact, fact customer interactions. Let's get in after fact customer interaction. We need daily balances as well. We need fact investment. We need fact transactions. Okay, and you can see all of them in the facts here. So let's get in our fact customer interaction. So now this is by the way, because the data that I've done already in the main.py that I talked about, the data is pretty much cleaned and I don't have any additional transformations to be done on them. If I do, say for instance, in the account or accounts level information, I want to transform or add anything, just like I'm adding get date to each of them. That's a simple transformation in there. It's just additional column. But if I want to add something more complex, maybe I want to transform a column, join the column together or something like that, which we are going to do shortly, we can do that just right here. Okay, so let's continue. The way to do that is to come into our dim customer. For instance, we have first name, last name, right? We can also add maybe full name. We can say first name, concat, first name. Then we had space and then last name into this, last name, and we call this as full name. Something like this. It's a simple transformation, and you can do as much as possible, add as many as possible into this for now. But for now, we just leave it as something not too complex and not is not that difficult to really grasp the concept. Okay. And by the way, if you compile this DBT compile, if you want to test if your queries is returning the right result, you can come into the target compiled here, and in the silver layer dimension. So this is, I'm talking about customer here. You can copy this and run this on something like DBeaver. If you paste this here and you do Command V and you paste this here, you can see it says dev bronze ext customers. You may add explicit cast. So it looks like we are concatenating 3 columns here. So we should concatenate first name and last name first. Then we do another concatenation with this. All right, that should work just fine. Yeah, I was like, okay. So we have first name, this, and you can see the full name here. And this is a simple transformation here. And you can also extract something like maybe postal code from here. If you want to do that kind of transformation or you are interested in that, you can do the split from there. And I'll just leave it at that. You can see something like this is here. Okay, good. So that's what we are trying to look at in this case. I'll just copy this and replace that in my dim here. Good. So this will be going, this is the data that will be going into STG dim, customer, and the rest like that. Okay, that makes sense, I hope. So now, once we are done with this, the next thing is to get in our customer interactions and all the other facts tables in here. So in this video, we are not going to be talking about all of them. So I'll just talk about the simple ones. So if you want to get the full video and all of these omitted versions of the videos, you can get them on Data Mastery Lab or in the link in the description below. Okay, so let's quickly do that. So I'll just get in my configuration here for STG fact customer interactions. So I'll say fact customer interactions. And the incremental strategy is going to be delete plus insert as always. And we are going to have the primary key, which is going to be the, instead of account, it should be interaction ID. I'll just copy this and paste that in here. And the distribution pattern in this case, so we don't have a skewed data. So distribution is going to be even. So you can look up the documentation if you are interested in getting more information about the distribution pattern for this. So coming back here, I'll just select from our fact customer interactions. Here, just copy all the columns here, copy column names, and select from there. All right, then we have the get date as created at, and that will be from just getting my bronze layer here, bronze schema. Then we have ext customer interactions. Okay, that will be the data that is going into the fact schema. So let's do the daily balances as well, or the transaction schema, or the transactions. Okay, so daily balances, just copy everything in the interaction here. Okay, and just in the daily balances, all right, and this will be balance ID, balance ID. Just copy this balance ID, paste that, and the distribution is going to be even. So the unique keys in this case, unique key is the the unique key is balance ID. Primary key is going to be balance ID as well. And let's add a sort key to this. Sort key is going to be balance ID. Okay, so you can sort by balance ID as well, and the distribution is going to be even. Okay, so with this done, just copy command there's an error there. Okay, so I'll just say that delete this, and just in DBeaver, I'll come into my daily balances and I'll run this. Okay, I'll copy the column names. Just here, and from here, once I have this, I'm just going to have the ext daily balances, isn't it? Yeah, ext fact daily balances. Ext fact daily balances. Okay. Yeah, created art. Yeah, that's it. So the daily balances is done, and we have the investments and the transactions which are left undone for now. If you are interested in that, like I mentioned, you can always get the full videos and full codes and all these things that are not discussed in this video. You can get them in the link in the description below. Okay. Okay, so that is done. We can also go back to our code layer now. The code layer is going to just be the same thing, but with some additional transformations here and there, and we do the joins and the rest, right? So now there are two ways by which you can manifest data into the math layer or the code layer where people can consume data from there. You can manifest it as or materialize it as a view, or you materialize it as table. So if you are materializing it as table, but you are not getting only the ID. So in fast layer, you only have IDs. So if you want data to be in something like a view, you don't need the IDs there. You need to have the more reasonable data in there. But if you want only the fact is just mainly usually just contains IDs. So just to show the interactions between multiple tables, that's usually what you want to insert into fact. But when you are working with something like a view that you are trying to get information from different tables and all that, you can put them in the view where you have all of the IDs and the related columns that are really relevant in that case into the views. Okay, so that's what we are looking at in this case. Okay. So that will be what I'll be doing in the code layer. So I'll just quickly just talk about one of the code layer in this case, and then we can just quickly discuss that, and we continue from there. So in our fact, dimensions for code layer is a little bit different. So I'll just do one of them because this video is getting too long, and I'm going to have fact. Let's say customer interactions. Let's quickly do that. So fact customer interaction, in this case, we are going to have our config fact customer interactions. I'll just have this. I'll just copy this. In our fact customer interactions, so instead of STG, we have fact customer interactions in this case. But now, instead of the silver schema, we are going to have gold schema. And the interaction ID and all this will be the same actually. And so the materialization in this case is not going to be incremental anymore. This is going to be materializing as view. And the reason for that is simply just what I mentioned. If you want to just join the multiple columns and select the relevant columns for something like maybe you are doing some ad hoc delivery or something like that, you can do that, or you can just leave it as IDs only with relevant measures. Okay, so for each of the measures, each of the IDs you have relevant measures for that. But I'll just materialize this as view. Others will be materialized as something like tables, but majorly you can also use incremental as well. Okay, I'll just leave it at that. So let's say we write our script as with source data, as we have a select, and in here I'm going to have be selecting the data from here. I'll just say STG fact interactions. Where is it? Customer interactions. I'll just select everything from here. Yeah, I'll paste it in here. So interaction rating, I'm going to be selecting data from our reference. What's our reference? STG fact customer interactions. fast customer interactions from there. Once we have our source data, we can now do the transformations that we want and the view selection and stuff like that. So I'm going to be selecting from, this will be from source data. I'll call this S. Then I'm going to be doing inner join. I'll be joining ref of dim dates as D on, so shouldn't be here. This will be as D on s.date ID. I'll be joining on date ID equals to d.date ID as well. I'll be doing another inner join. Remove this. Yeah, dim date. I'll be joining on customer as well because I have custom dim customer. I have customer ID there. I have location ID, and I have customer. I have customer channel. Have I done the channel? No, dim customer, dim channel, and this will be dim location, right? This will be connecting to all of them. So that means I have date dim, customer dim, location dim, and channel dim in this case. Okay, so let's quickly get the data we need from them. Even though we don't have the dim date right now, we can actually just copy everything in our dimensions here. I'll just rename them to dims. Okay, and in my dimensions here, I'll quickly do a rename of the dims to dim stg. Yeah, I'll just rename that. Refactor, rename dim. I'll refactor that. I'll do the same as well. I just do refactor. So I'll just do dim date channel, date customer location and channel, date customer channel. Okay, I have date. I don't need currency here. I need customer, so I'll just rename customer. Okay, dim customer, and I'll do refactor. And then I have the dates as well. And the channel, I have customer channel location. So let's get in location as well. Refactor location, and I'll refactor that as well. Good. So I can delete the rest, even though they will still be adjusted as well, but I'll just remove them. So I have the account. So let's get the account from here. And this will not be selecting from there again. It will be selecting from ref. And this will be stg dim account. Okay. So that's where that will be selecting data from. And this will also be selecting from ref. stg dim channel. Okay, I'll just remove the stg here, and this will be the gold. And the same thing will happen to gold. Okay, and for the customer as well, gold, and this will be dim customer, and this will be ref stg dim customer. Okay, and dim date, we have ref stg dim date. Okay, and we already have it created as, so it's fine. That will be dim date, and this will be gold schema. So there is no need for created at here. We already have it, and I can always select full name from here directly. There's no need for additional transformation in there. I'll just leave it as it is. Okay. dim date. And then finally, we have the location. So we have the dim location, and this will be gold as well. Gold. And this is, yeah, this is like that. And we have the ref stg dim location. And I close this up with this as well. Good. So finally, we can do DBT compile to see if we have any errors anywhere. So we have dim dates. It says it depends on a node name called stg dim date. And this, what we have right now is stg dim date. So I'll just refactor this, and that will be updated. Okay. And I should compile this again. Customers, it says model this, it needs something called dim date, and that's what we have here. Refactor this and rename that. I'll just rerun this compile again. Any other errors? Yeah, everything is fine. Okay, yeah, so good. If you look at what we have right now, we have the compiled target for both dims in gold and some dims and some fact. The same thing happens for the dimensions here and the fact. Okay, so yeah, I'll just quickly run this and see what we have basically in the DBT run. So if I do DBT run, we have the runs of all the models that have been created, some in incremental mode, some in table mode, some in view mode as well. And you can see there's an error everywhere. What's going on? Errors everywhere. Okay, some are successful, but some are having errors. Okay, so let's see why the errors are like that. And interestingly, you can see we have incremental model here. So it says it couldn't find stg dim database error. It couldn't find this STGs like that. Okay, so it's all right. So that's not a big problem, is it? So we just fix that. If you do a refresh in the schema, if you do a refresh in the schema, we should be able to see the additional schema here. But the problem now is the way the naming convention here is not right. It says dev bronze, dev gold, dev bronze, dev schema, dev silver. Now, this particular part of the video is not going to be available generally because it's a separate functions that is going to be doing that transformation for us. So you may not see this in the video, but for people that are that are on Data Mastery Lab or that are subscribed to the membership channel, they will be able to see this particular video, this particular part of the video where we do the transformation from all these to a single schema. Okay, and do DBT run, and you should see the updated records in here. Hopefully, so far I hope there's no errors. You can see now that it's no longer using dev bronze, dev something something anymore. It's now dev silver. So all these ones that are running directly in the silver model and not in the bronze model anymore. So that's the good thing about that adjustment. Now, but there are some that are missing in this case. So let's run this in here. I'll just do DBT run, and I'll select the dim customer from here, stg dim customer, and I should see stg dim customer. It says concat varying unknown does not exist. What's going on in there? It says concat this. So I have one concat in here. So it should be concat, two concat here, concat. I should concatenate this first and concatenate the second one. So if I rerun this, that should be fine. Yeah, it is okay now. And which other one is having issues? Let's fix that as well. It says model not found, entity not found from glue. So that means we are trying to run stgdim account and it couldn't find ext account. It should be ext account. So the next one is from, let's see. Yeah, this is fixed now. This is stgdim currency. We have currency. So in our ext here, what's our table name for currencies? Currencies, not currencies. Okay, that's fixed now. And the next one is dim account. Dim account, that should be account. Customer is customers. Okay, the next one is dim date. So dim date, this should be ext dates. Is it? Ext date, yes. And the final thing here, if I do dbt run again, you should be able to run them in separate schema where you have the silver schema, this is the silver, this is the silver schema. And because I'm running in 4 concurrent threads, so we are saying the 4 runs at first, then it's going to be creating running 4 at a time. Okay, and everything is running as expected, no skips, no errors, and we have 17 models. So there's something wrong with the fact customer interactions, stg fact customer interactions. So it says ext customer, it should be ext fact customer interaction. Okay, fact customer interactions, and that should fix that. Okay, and right now you see we have the dev silver and dev gold. So that's the good thing is this is skipped now because of the dependency. If I run this again, then we should be good. All the dependencies have been fixed, and they are now writing into their respective schema. So there is no need for all these dev bronze, dev gold. I'll just delete these 2. We don't need them anymore. Thank you. Yes. And all I just have to do is refresh this schema, and the dev silver and dev gold will populate just easily. Yeah, you can see dev gold and dev silver coming in directly, and you can see the dev silver is having stg dims, and for dev gold you can see all of them directly. Dim channels, all these account channels, customer dates and locations are coming in as expected. So there's still an error in here. It says there's an error near from dev gold. It says from, because I didn't finish this fact customer interaction. So let's quickly fix that. So in our fact customer interactions, what we want to do is get in our dates and now s.dateid, date ID. What I want to see in there, s.interaction ID, d.date. This will be as interaction date. Interaction date. We have s.customer ID. We have c.firstname. We are trying to get all of the information from here. First name, c.last name. Maybe c.full name as well. Full name. And c.city, c.state, c.postal code, s.channel ID, ch. This should be customer, it should be C, location should be L, and ch should be ch. Okay, channel name, and this should be s.interaction type and s.interaction rating. Okay, so let's fix the rest. So date is connecting on date ID, customer is connecting on customer ID equals to d.customer ID. Then location is connecting on location ID equals to location location ID. We have channel ID is connecting on channel ID as well. Then finally, we need to bring in our location. So what do we want to see in the location here? Let's see, where's our location? Dim location. So we have the country that is not brought in. So let's bring in our country here, l.country. So assuming that the city, states, and city and states belong to the same country, and the postal code is also there as well. Okay, so that's what we are looking for. And if I do DBT run, and I can just run this alone, fact customer interactions. Okay, and I'll just select this alone, and we should be good. Since that is the only one left, and you can see the rest are successful, that is left. Okay, so there's an error. It says d.customer ID is not, it should be C, no, not D. And that will be L, and this will be CH. Okay, my bad. Okay, so that is running as expected. And if we run everything from the start to finish, and you can see, okay, so all of the models are running and they are in the right schemas. And that's the good thing about all of this. So I'll just close other tabs. And yeah, so this is good. And right now we've been able to orchestrate the different schemas transformation from here to different tables. And you can see here, if I do a refresh, if I do a refresh here and I open up the dev gold, these are the views and these are the tables here. I think it's still trying to do a refresh. If you see, it's still running. So if I check dev gold, so this is materializing as a view. So we should see that in the view section, just here in the dev gold. And if I do a refresh, I should be able to do a refresh somewhere here. Yeah, I'll just do a refresh just outside here. Yeah, a refresh. Okay, so it takes 1 or 2 seconds to be done. Yeah, so customer interactions just came in. So we have 2 facts in our Delve Silver. Is that not? Yeah, these are the 2 that have been implemented. We still have additional 2 that have not been implemented. And in our gold, let's see the views. You can see the views here. So if I open up the gold again, and I'll just close this up and open this again. So you can see the themes here, and you can see the fast customer interactions. You can see the column names here, and you can see the data sitting in there pretty nicely. So just to do a preview of that data in there, so you can see everything in here sitting there as expected. Good. And interestingly, if you click on the gold, you can see the ER diagrams in here. Right now, you can see all of them as they are sitting there in silos. And yeah, these are the other other parts of the system that are not covered in this YouTube video. So the first part is the analysis section where we do customer segmentation and the monthly active users. A couple more will be added to that in the subsequent videos, but for now, these are not captured in this YouTube video. We also have the macro section where we discuss the macros in the system. Then we have the models and their test cases that are written for them are also covered. For dimensions, for the goal dimensions and the fact dimensions, the fact models. The same thing happens for the silver layers as well. I'll just minimize the gold. The same thing happens for the silver, where we write the test for the facts and the dimensions in here as well. And then we have the seeds, which are not captured in this video. Snapshots are also not captured. Then in the gold layer, we wrote some custom tests where we test for the account balance is positive, account balance type validity, testing of credit score range, and so much more in there. We also did some fact transformation in here where we check for the negative transaction, often customer interaction records, just to be able to expose the inconsistencies in the data, and we're able to achieve at least 99.9% accuracy in the system, which is a good record. So the 0.01 that is left is just about the differences in the precision of the data. So those are the kind of things that are not covered in this video. We also discuss we also cover the documentation generation, where we talk about the different aspects of the system that are covered, including the analysis in the models, whether it's gold, facts, and dimensions in here that are covered, as well as the database. The macros are also covered, which are in the folder. We have the tables and view for the dev and the gold and the silver layer, which are also being covered as well. Then we have the lineage graph, which is covering everything at a glance, which is covered in these videos in the full course. So if you are interested in getting access to all of them, like the DIM currency, investment type, and the rest of the information, you can see the full lineage graph in here, and now all of the individual system are connected together. And this is eventually the test cases that are also written for that. So yeah, those are the kind of things that are covered in the full course that are not being covered in this video. So you can check them out in the on Data Mastery Lab for more information. But if you are interested in the code for this particular, you can get it in the description, where you just get the code that are used for this recording of this YouTube video. All right, thank you very much, and I'll see you in the next video.